Welcome, everyone. Okay, let's just dive right into the incredibly complex, maybe even a little bit adorable world of red blood cell production. Today's explainer is custom built for your high-yield exam prep. We're cutting straight to the core of how our bodies manufacture these life-sustaining erythrocytes and, what happens when that whole process goes sideways.
To give you a sense of scale right off the bat, and this is wild, our bodies manufacture approximately 10 to the 12th power new red blood cells every single day. That is 1 trillion cells every single day. It's this absolutely massive, nonstop manufacturing operation that demands total precision, a steady stream of raw materials, and some seriously strict regulatory oversight.
So here is our game plan for today's explainer. First, we'll hit the factory floor, then we'll meet the manager, and finally, we'll look at supply chain disruption.
All right, section 1, the factory floor. Let's get into erythropoiesis.
Welcome to the actual factory floor, the bone marrow stroma. In this highly specialized space, erythropoiesis takes place in what we call an erythroid niche. Imagine it like a bustling workstation. You've got about 30 developing cells, all huddled around a central macrophage. And that macrophage is basically handing out exactly what these cells need as they mature.
Now here is your classic exam sequence for cellular maturation. It all kicks off with this large pro-normoblast. As it moves through the early, intermediate, and late normoblast stages, the cell physically shrinks down, its cytoplasm shifts from blue to pink as it fills up with hemoglobin, and the chromatin tightly condenses. Then, at that late normoblast stage, it literally physically ejects its nucleus to become a reticulocyte. This reticulocyte phase, it is absolutely fascinating. Even though it just kicked out its nucleus, meaning it completely lacks DNA, it actually hangs on to ribosomal RNA, so it can keep synthesizing hemoglobin. It cruises around in the peripheral blood for about 1 to 2 days before it finally loses that RNA completely, turning into the mature, non-nucleated, biconcave disc we all know and love. Moving right along to section 2, the manager. Let's talk about regulating all this production. So, if the bone marrow is our factory floor, we've got a bit of a physiological puzzle on our hands. How does the kidney, which is a completely different organ located entirely elsewhere in the body, how does it control the rate of red blood cell production? Well, the answer is erythropoietin, or, as we usually call it, EPO. This heavily glycosylated polypeptide hormone is essentially our cute but incredibly strict floor manager. About 90% of it is produced in the peritubular interstitial cells of the kidney, and it operates entirely on the basic economics of supply and demand, specifically the supply and demand of oxygen. The crucial detail here is this molecular oxygen sensor pathway. The kidney uses an enzyme called prolyl hydroxylase, or PHD2, to constantly sense oxygen levels. When oxygen delivery drops, a state we know as hypoxia, PHD2 just shuts down. And that shutdown allows a protein called Hif1 alpha to stabilize. Think of Hif1 alpha like a blaring fire alarm. It triggers the kidneys to rapidly ramp up EPO production and ship it straight to the bone marrow. And once that EPO actually reaches the bone marrow, its molecular influence is just profound. It binds to receptors on late progenitor cells, massively increasing their numbers. It activates vital transcription factors like GATA1 and FOG1. These basically yell at our erythroblast friends to proliferate, to survive, and to massively crank up their hemoglobin production machinery. It even upregulates transferrin receptor 1, that's CD71, so the cell can pull in more iron. Honestly, it's a total masterclass in cellular micromanagement. Okay, section 3, supply chain disruption. Let's look at chronic disease. Now, iron is absolutely critical as a raw material for hemoglobin. So let's compare the normal state to an inflammatory state. Normally, macrophages in the bone marrow happily hand over iron for developing red cells to use. But in a state of chronic inflammation, the liver starts pumping out a molecule called hepcidin, and hepcidin acts as a nasty blockade. It traps iron inside those macrophages and completely prevents it from being absorbed in the gut. So it literally starves the developing red cells of their core raw materials. So why on earth would the body do this to itself? Well, it's driven by inflammatory cytokines like interleukin-6, interleukin-1, and tumor necrosis factor. Whenever there's a chronic infection or inflammation, IL-6 triggers that hepcidin release to literally hide iron away from multiplying bacteria that need it to survive. It is an evolutionary defense mechanism. But, as a pretty massive side effect, these cytokines completely sabotage our factory manager. They suppress the kidney's EPO response to the resulting anemia, and they even shorten the lifespan of the red cells you already have.
For your exams, these clinical features for the anemia of chronic disease are absolute, non-negotiable must-knows. First, the anemia is usually mild and non-progressive. The cells themselves might look normocytic, so normal size, or maybe just slightly small and pale. But here is the major differentiator. Your patient will have low serum iron, but normal or raised serum ferritin. Remember, ferritin measures stored iron. So this perfectly proves the iron isn't missing from the body at all, it's just trapped inside the macrophages by hepcidin.
And different disease states can completely throw off this normal balance of marrow activity. For instance, in aplastic anemia, we see massive erythroid hypoplasia. The factory floor is just empty. On the flip side, in hemolytic anemia, we see huge hyperplasia. The factory is working extreme overtime just to replace destroyed cells. And then in megaloblastic anemias, you get ineffective erythropoiesis. The factory is super busy, but the products are completely defective and actually die before they ever leave the marrow.
As a final clinical note, let's quickly consider chronic renal failure. In this scenario, the factory manager is simply missing. The damaged kidneys physically cannot secrete enough EPO. So you get a direct, massive drop in red cell production, which results in a normochromic anemia, even though the patient has perfectly normal iron levels. The factory is fine, the raw materials are sitting right there, but literally nobody is giving the order to build.
I want to leave you with a final thought for your studies today. If we know the exact molecular supply chain disruptions, like we know PH2 senses oxygen, we know IL-6 triggers hepcidin, and we know hepcidin traps iron, how can you, as future clinicians and researchers, develop targeted therapies to outsmart this molecular blockade and get the factory line moving again? It's a massive question, and it's literally driving modern hematology forward as we speak.